Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissick and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissick.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Hey, Dana, how are you? You had a big night of awards last night. Have you recovered?
Yes, it was great. Yes, I did. We were just saying before we started, I never realized how much more stressful virtual awards would be rather than in person. In person, you just show up and everybody's there, and virtual, you have to deal with audio and internet and Wi-Fi and slides and unmuting and muting. And as the camera, I mean, it was like the whole thing, but we felt like we were newscasters, Press and I did last night.
Well, y'all did a great job. And then you also had to worry about Zoom ever so often too. That's always fun.
Yeah, it was good though. It was great. Definitely different, but good turnout. So it was good.
Well, y'all did a great job. It was very classy, very professional. And I felt like I was at the Grammys.
Thank you. It was the balloon arch in the background. We're doing those from everything here on out. Those balloon arches, they made the whole thing.
Awesome. Well, I am super excited today, Dana. So why don't you introduce our guest that we have, and let's get after it. I got a lot of great questions for him.
I know. I told him before we started, last night I wrote mine down. And then this morning I had one of those mornings where I woke up at 3:45 and never could go back to sleep. So I have all the questions. So we were actually introduced to Clint from our friend Diana Kokoska, and he has a book that's coming out. And so we're going to let him share all of those things. Very timely for a lot of things in my life right now, Linda, probably you too. So welcome, Clint. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. It's an honor to be with you. I appreciate you having me on the show. This is a lot of fun.
Great.
So my first question, Diana just left my house yesterday. She came and spent the night with me, and we went to the World Trade Center. 22,000 steps we did.
How do you?
Yeah. And, and we didn't eat all day because Diana looks like a little twig. So food's not in her repertoire, but it was so much fun. So how do you know Diana? Because our audience knows Diana Kokoska too.
Yeah. So Diana has been a dear friend of mine for over 6 years. I have spoke for the MAPS and Bold coaching for Keller Williams for a long time, and worked closely with her, and she would bring me in to come and train and work with all of the Bold and MAPS coaches.
You didn't do music before, did you?
I did. I was a professional drummer for a long time.
Did you drum at one of her recharges?
That's me.
Oh!
In the dot.
Okay.
Well, yep. We should have you bring your drum too. You're amazing.
Gosh, yes. Yes.
Yep.
Where was that? Was that San Francisco? I'm trying to remember now.
New York.
Yeah, in New York.
New York. Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
That is
Look
awesome.
at all coming full circle, you two. Look at this.
You're from Utah or something, right?
Yep. You got it.
I have a photograph. I remember good stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So Diana's been a dear friend, and we've got to travel the world together and speak at events and cause some good. So it's been a great time. I love her. She's an amazing human.
And you started out drumming because when you were a child, you wouldn't leave your pencil still. And so some smart person said you should get into being a drummer.
Yeah. That was my fifth grade teacher, Mr. Jensen. He said, "You're not a problem. You're a drummer." And he handed me my very first pair of drumsticks, and that was 22 years ago, and changed my life forever. Yeah.
Awesome. I love it.
Cool.
That's
love
cool.
that.
All right. Go ahead, Dana.
I was going to say, do we just want to jump right in and talk to us about your how you're known as the Undercover Millennium and all the other things and millennial, and how you wrote the book, and talk about the book and all that. And we have questions. And I just think this is like the coolest, most relevant topic ever right now, because so many different people are trying to find their way in leadership. And you hear so often like, well, so-and-so is a manager, but now this person's a leader. Or how do you get to move from that management to leadership? So just tell us how you even started all of it.
Yeah. So 5 years ago, I was a part of a mastermind group. We were in New York City, downtown in Manhattan. We were meeting with other CEOs and executives that were running beautiful organizations. And one of the guys that we met with owned a sporting good retail store right in Manhattan. And we're in the store talking to him about business. And he talked about how he needed to strategize and meet the demands of an ever-changing marketplace in his business. And he had this thick New York accent, and I'll never forget. He said, "You got to adapt or you're going to die. If you don't adapt, you're going to die." And I was like, wow, it was a very profound statement. I was like, okay, I agree. I agree with him. I also then asked, what about your management style? Have you felt the need to change how you manage people 20 years ago versus how you manage them today? And he fired back and said, nope, no need to change that. And we get results. Wow. Okay. Another fairly profound statement. He felt the need to change his business strategy, but he didn't feel the need to change how he handled people. And I looked around the store, and all of his employees were my age or younger. So they're all millennials, Gen Z, high school, college age kids. And I just thought to myself, I said, I wonder if they would say the same thing. I wonder if they would have the same wonderful story that the CEO had. So I thanked him for his time. We had 35 minutes to kill until we needed to be to the next place. I had nothing else better to do. So I walked up to the first employee that I saw, and I just said, "Hey, I'm just curious, what's it like to work here?" And the employee, he looks around, gets all quiet. I feel like we're doing an illegal drug exchange. And he says, you really want to know? And I said, yeah. He goes, I can't stand it here, man. I literally feel like I'm a cog in the wheel. We're all cogs in the wheel. He's like, it's just a job. Like, I don't even think my manager knows I'm here right now. And I thought, okay, well, then why are you still working here? And he said, no, I've already applied to 3 other places. As soon as I get an opportunity, I'm out.
Wow.
I thought, okay, well, shoot, maybe the kid's having a bad day. So I went and asked another employee, and another and another. And I looked just like this, mind you. I had my backwards hat on, I was wearing a hoodie. I was just a customer. And at the end of those 35 minutes, I interviewed 6 of his employees. And at the end of those conversations, 5 out of the 6 of his staff members said they would not be working for him and his store in less than 3.5 months.
Wow.
And that was the moment, you two. That was the moment when I realized, oh my goodness, the perception of leadership versus the reality of the employee experience could not be more different.
Mm.
And that's how I started my organization. That was 5 years ago. And from that moment on, I have worked with 181 organizations, and I have interviewed over 10,000 employees undercover. Wow. And we started the Undercover Millennial program. And it's kind of like Undercover Boss.
The coolest name ever. It's the coolest name. Like, it's so cool.
No, thank you. And it's fun because we created an environment where employees could speak their truth. Mm-hmm. They could tell me, because I wasn't a manager. I'm not a servant. I'm just another millennial. And in doing so, we were able to capture the truth. And we wrote a book about it. And the book is called I Love It Here: How Great Leaders Create Organizations Their People Never Want to Leave. And that was the magic, you guys, of the research. When I would go and interview an employee, the cool part wasn't when they were dissatisfied with their job. The cool part was when I would walk up to an employee and say, what's it like to work here? And they would respond with, I love it here. I love my job. Oh my gosh, my manager, Susie. Well, we're a family here. We're a community. And then when that would trend in an organization, to see what the great leaders were doing to create that type of a response. This is not another leadership book written by a self-proclaimed leadership expert. That's not what this is. This is a book that's written by 10,000 employees who knew when their leaders were getting it right. And it has been an honor to tell their stories. I love it.
Did you know the minute you heard people say, I love it here, that was going to be your title?
I never started out wanting to just write a book. It was just starting out to wanting to fill the gap, to fill the void of leadership versus the reality of an employee experience. And over time, that 3-letter phrase, I love it here, I love it here, I love it here, I love it here, was the common thing. And when people asked, I want a book, you write it, I want to see the research, I want to read this, I want to be able to duplicate this. That's when I said, well, we've got to call it I Love It Here, because that's the magic of everything I found. Yeah.
Well, I got to know. I wanted my people to say I love it here. So what did you find?
Same. I have so many questions.
Yeah, so many things. I think one of the big things is that's worth talking about is when an employee hated their job, they talked about the manager. When an employee loved their job, they talked about the mentor, not the leader, not the manager. They talked about the mentor. This is a middle place, a middle position that we don't really talk about a lot. We either talk about good leadership or we talk about management. And here's the thing, traditional leadership, if you're a leader, you're the person that sits in the front and you lead. You're the visionary. This is where we're going. This is what we need to do. This is how we're going to get from point A to point B to point C. And you invoke and influence people to follow that. You're a leader if you have people follow you. Now, the manager is the person that's making sure that the ship has no leaks, that we can be efficient, that we can move productively through the water and we can get there quicker. But the mentor is the person who's taking care of people on the ship. Mentorship cannot be given as a title. Like, you can't just give somebody the title of a mentor. That's not true mentorship. Mentorship has to be earned. That's why it's so powerful. You might have the title of a director, a supervisor, the team lead, but you do not become a mentor until the mentee invites you into their heart.
I like that.
That is why it was so powerful. If you can get people to voluntarily want to connect with you, that is the strongest form of influence, engagement, and loyalty that a leader could ask for. And it is through mentorship, not leadership, that's the thing that people talked about. That's where people thrived in their job. They didn't just survive. It was because of a mentor.
So what do you think that keeps most leaders from being mentors? Because if that's the secret sauce, why do some not want to be that or do that?
Yeah, mentorship is hard. Mentorship is difficult. It's easier said than done. It's a process. It's a journey. It's a commitment. If I ever found a mentor in our research, someone who was really, truly building an organization that people never wanted to leave, they had 5 characteristics. I call them the 5 C's of mentorship. And if you want to become that significant person where people go, I like myself best because of you. You're the person that connects me to my dreams. If you want to be that person, you must possess these 5 C's. When I would walk into a store and I would ask people, why do you work here? Why have you stayed here for 15 years? And they'd say, it's because of Susie. I stay here because of Susie. Who's Susie? And I'd go to the next person. Why do you work here? Susie. We all work here because of Susie. Why? What made Susie so significant? These 5 C's. Number 1 is confidence. Susie had confidence. She was confident in her ability to get people to where they wanted to go. She was also confident in the things that she was trying to get people to do. Confidence builds trust. I want to mentor with somebody who is confident in their abilities to help me accomplish what I'm wanting to do. Confidence mattered. It exudes stronger trust. Number 2 is credibility. What's your background? What's your history? Right? You might be the team lead. Have you ever sold a house before? How many houses have you sold? Right? You're the car dealership manager. Have you ever sold a car? I want to know your history. What's your background? Are you credible to be able to teach me and talk to me about what it is that you're mentoring me on? The 3rd C is competence. I want to mentor with a practitioner, not a theorist. It's very important to understand. You might know everything about the economy, the market, the real estate world, but can you actually get in and understand the software? Can you create a lead? Do you know the process? You might know everything about the game of basketball, but can you actually get out and shoot a hoop? Practitioners, people that were competent, that mattered. Candor is number 4. Great mentors have the ability to create relationships so strong that honesty could exist. I want to mentor with somebody that's going to give it to me straight. Someone that's going to, they've made the deposits of trust in our relationship so that they can make some withdrawals. They can have those honest conversations. I want to mentor with someone who's going to tell me what I need to know, not what's going to make me feel good. And that leads us to the last C, which is caring. Great mentors had the ability to care for the individual. It was a relationship that was built over time, that was built off of this knowing that you want my best interest at heart. You want me to succeed. You're an advocate, not just a developer. Those 5 C's, And I guarantee both of you have had mentors in your life. And I guarantee they had all 5 C's, all 5 of those C's, because you wouldn't have mentored with them if they didn't. They had confidence, credibility, competence, candor, and the ability to care for you as a human being. That is what makes a mentor a mentor.
Love that. Oh, Linda, were you going to ask something about that before I go?
Yeah. I was like, I promised you could ask the next question. Well, what I was going to say is I think these 5 C's are for anybody, not just millennials.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a millennial thing. It's not a generational thing. Yeah, and we have to get away from the generations. Yeah. That's another thing we found in our research. When an organization would go and say, oh, well, how do we connect with the millennials? How do we connect with Gen Z? That's the wrong question to ask. The question you should be asking is, how do we connect with individuals? We cannot look at people as a generation and expect to create lasting influence. It doesn't work that way. There is no one-size-fits-all approach based off of the year you were born. I'm sorry. There's just not. And we deem that. I blame my industry. I blame speakers on this because they come in with this marketing ploy of the 5 things every millennial wants from their employer. The 5 things you've got to do to retain millennials. And it sounds good on paper, but in theory, it does not work because we're all individuals. We all have different perspectives, different backgrounds. I've met millennials that are entitled and lazy. I've also met millennials who are incredibly loyal and gifted and hardworking. The point is we have to focus on individuals, not a generation. It's a very important piece.
Yeah, I was looking, I just read a book about that and I thought I had it on my shelf, but I can't find it now, but it talked about exactly what you just said. So, okay, so I went to buy the book and it doesn't come out until April 13th. However, your website lets people download a free chapter. Is it 4? Chapter 4?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, it outlines the 4 types of managers.
Yes. Okay. So I loved in this part when one of the pages, I don't have the page, I just screenshot it in front of me. So you said, Oprah Winfrey said, leadership is about empathy. It's about having the ability to relate and connect with people for the purpose of inspiring and empowering their lives. And so as I walked through your, the 4, let's see what you call it, the 4 types of managers, and you had the removed manager, the buddy manager, the controlling manager, and then the mentor manager, which is a little bit what you just talked about. I couldn't help but think of a question around the controlling manager, because I feel like that's probably got to be one of the worst ones to work with or to do or to be around. And I actually even have in some of my organizations right now a little bit of pushback from some of the leadership team on a new person that's leading them. And the feedback is very much similar to what I read in this paragraph. So will you kind of walk through those 4 types of managers? And then also my question to that as a follow-up is, how do you change? How would you coach or lead someone to change out of that kind of controlling manager role where their standards and expectations are so high, but they just are not connecting with the people?
Yeah. Then I would tell that person, have fun being a solo entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. have fun having the revolving door of turnover if you want to stay that way, because long gone are the days of put your head down, go to work, be glad you have a job. Yeah. People have options. And especially coming out of this pandemic. So during COVID-19, we've interviewed and worked with over 47 different organizations during COVID. And we are coming out of a recession, or a pandemic. And everybody in 2020 was grateful they had a job. If you had a job, you held on to that job. Retention rates were at an all-time high. We are coming out of this. I am calling it right now. In Q3 and Q4 of 2021, we will see a massive exodus. You will see the great job churn of 2021. That's what I'm calling it, because people have had 2 things happen to them during this pandemic. Number 1, they remember how you treated them as a leader during COVID-19. And I saw some horrific things that leaders and managers did to their people during the pandemic. I also saw some incredibly inspiring and beautiful things that happened. They will remember, and they do remember, how you treated them. Second, they've had time to think. Everybody has had time to think during this pandemic. And when we get out of this, people are realizing, oh my gosh, I can live in Texas and I can work in New York. I can live in Utah and work in California, and I can make twice as much. The economy, the world has changed. And if you do not connect with your people, if you are not looking at your all-star players and conducting what I call a status interview, we talk about that later in the book. Every great employee right now deserves to be asked and given a status interview. It's not a stay interview. It's not an exit interview. This is not a performance review. This is not a time to go over, stats and numbers. It's a status check. I came from the medical field. That was my background. I worked in the OR doing total knees and hips. And the doctors would always ask, what's the status of the patient? Can you give us a status check? We need a status update. And what they're really asking is, can you tell me what the vitals are reading? We all have vital signs, right? Your heart rate, your body temperature, your blood pressure, your respiratory rate. If one of those is gone, you're in trouble. The employees have vital signs as well. The vital signs determine treatment. So you check the vitals, you treat the patient. Then what do you do after you treat the patient? You recheck the vitals, and then you treat again. You continue that cycle until healthy stability is maintained long-term. We should do the same thing for our employees. Right now, I would say this week, if you have your A-list team members, the agents that if they left your organization, it would hurt you. It would be a rough loss. Go to those people. You could call them into the office. You could go to lunch with them. You could do it over a Zoom call. Make it casual and start with vocal praise. That's the number one thing that we have to remember. Start with vocal praise. Let them know why they're worth something to you. Why do you want them here? Why do you value them as an employee? Start with the vocal praise. Then second, the first question you ask them, I just need to know, Johnny, what can I do to keep you here? What can I do to keep you on my team? It blows my mind how many employees never get asked that question, ever. Because a lot of managers are afraid to ask.
Right, they'll say money or something.
Yeah, they're like, what if they want a 20% increase, or they want free ski passes, or they want more food in the office, and I can't do that. Yeah, well, what if you don't do that and they leave anyways? Or what if you do, or if you don't ask that question and they stay and they remain disengaged, right? They're in the organization, but they're not into the organization. If you don't ask, you will never know. And I think sometimes as leaders, it's kind of like that age-old adage of, if you teach a man to fish, then you feed him for a day. But if you can teach the man to fish, then you feed him for a lifetime. Every time I hear that, I go, who said the guy wanted to fish? I'm not a fish guy. I would rather have a steak, right? And I think sometimes as leaders, we come in guns a-blazing and we feel like we know what everybody wants. We're going to throw the holiday party. We're going to do the recognition thing. We're going to do, lunch in the office. Have you ever taken the time to ask people? The status interview allows you to do that. Because here's the thing, if they do ask for more money and you can't do that, it gives you the chance to ask for other options. Well, what else can we do? I can't do the raise, but what if we take Fridays off? Or what if every day you're out of the office at 4 o'clock? I know you love to go fishing. Go fish. Go be with your family. Like, what are some other things that you can do to keep them here? Number two, the second thing is, what's getting in the way of your success right now in this company? What's getting in the way? Is it you're not getting enough listings? Is it the time? Is it the schedule? Is it Sally that's on the team? Like, who is it? What is it? What's getting in the way of you being successful? Remember, as a mentor, your job is to block, to advocate for people. That's your role. That's what you need to do. That's what they're looking for. And then the third question is, what can I do to help you get there? Every great rock star employee needs to be asked those three questions this week, because we are coming into a massive exodus. And if you don't ask, they will go and find somebody that will. They will go and find somebody that will allow them to grow. They will find somebody that sees them, hears them, understands them. And that's your job, again, to do that for your people, to give them a reason to want to connect with you. Do the status interview. That did not answer your question, Dana, at all.
That was so good.
But
that's okay.
It's a relevant piece to that.
That's so good. Well, okay, let me follow up with a question then. Have you seen people in one of those 4 types of management positions actually be able to change? Someone said yesterday to me, I think it's just their personality, Dana. I just don't think that they cannot be a controlling manager. I just think that that's the way that they are. And, and, you know, and honestly, I don't know. I didn't know the answer to that. So
I believe,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah.
I believe in the power of good coaching. I believe in the power of change and development. And the more aware we become, here's the thing. I learned this in the research. Most managers have no idea they're doing poorly. So whoever this fella is, whoever this person is that's leading this organization, probably isn't aware that they're doing such a cruddy job, because there's no incentive for the employees to tell them face to face. They'll tell you, they'll talk about it to their team members, but they don't ever tell the manager. And the manager's just up there doing his thing, just leading, and that's who he is. And we don't create an environment where they can actually understand that there's a massive problem.
Yeah.
That needs to be changed.
I think this conversation is, I'd like to talk to you about your leadership style and the effects it's having on your team. Example. I do believe people can change, because I even think about myself, because I'm such a direct person. I have such a high standard for myself, even, that I've learned to change over the years. Because I'm being someone that is, when you're highly driven and you're direct, you can have good intention, but it can come off the wrong way. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I truly do believe they at least deserve the opportunity to change. And I think you start that with that behavioral change conversation in Fierce. Clint, I have a question. You know, if you've got a team, I've got boomers who like work 80 hours a week, and you know, are all about security, and I never want to lose this job. And then now I'm bringing on millennials. And when you ask them what's important to you, they say flexibility and freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Very diverse.
Yeah.
And so how do you have both type of employees? Because they both think the other one's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, like, why would you work 80 hours a week? Well, and we don't want them to work 80 hours a week either. Trust me. I always say, well, what's wrong with this job that it takes you 80 hours a week to do it? But then on the other hand, the other one feels like, you know, they're not really working because they're flexibility. But what I've discovered, what I think about millennials is they work at odd times. They may not do it in this box from 8 to 5, but I've watched you do it. Dana, I've watched you do it. You know, you'll be on your sofa on Saturday night working on something.
Sure.
So, I mean, you know, and you're right. People are tagging millennials as this, and they hop around all the time and they do all that. So what you're saying is that's a person issue. That's not really a millennial. Or are you seeing millennials want more freedom? What's true and what's not true?
I've seen boomers want more freedom. I want to be with my grandkids more. Like, it's so funny. We deem like the younger generation, they're always on their phones. Dang, kids are on their phones. Get off your cell phone. You as a boomer, you're on your phone just as much as everybody else. Like, it's crazy to me. Like, and it's just a part of like life. Like, boomers, they said the same thing about Gen X. Dang hippie kids with their hair. Cut your hair, you hippie. And now those people are doing it to the millennials. Like, it's just, we always will look at the younger people and say, ugh, do you know how we used to do that?
We boomers are doing real important stuff on our phone.
Yeah. There you go. Seeing it's like, but we're actually working. I'm not scrolling on Instagram.
Not on TikTok.
I know. And so here's the thing. I think that there's two variables, two very important variables. If an employee was satisfied with their job or they were dissatisfied with their job, I could always narrow it down to two things: the standards of that leader and the connection of that leader, or the lack thereof of both of those. And this dives into where we can maybe talk briefly about the 4 types of managers. In every organization, you have these 4 types of people. Number 1 is the removed manager. This manager, they're low on standards and they're low on connection. I don't really care about how many houses you sell. You're on the team. Congratulations. I don't really know who you are. I don't really care about what you did on the weekends. Just go do your thing. They're burnt out. They're tired. And so what does this create? Disengagement. Why should I care? My manager could care less. Why should I have a goal about how many houses I should sell this month? Nobody cares. Why should I care? So you create a culture of disengagement. The second manager is the buddy manager. This is the manager that's really high on connection. They're homies with everybody, friends with everybody, but they're low on standards. They don't want to take anybody off. They don't want anybody to feel bad. They want to be liked more than they're respected. So what does this create? Entitlement. This is where, when I find in organizations and they go, oh, the millennials, they want everything. Well, it's because you're their friend. It's because you're the buddy. They deem you as the buddy. You're the person that goes and plays Xbox on the weekends with them. And then you come in firing on Monday saying, oh, we gotta do better. And it's like, dude, we just kicked it at the barbecue on Saturday. And now you're like some crazy manager. It doesn't work that way. That's where the employee becomes more of the boss than the boss does. The third manager is the controller. And we find this in that older style, that old command and control model of management. Put your head down, you work. You want results, you work. You know how we used to sell houses 20 years ago? Don't complain to me. Go do your job. I show you that I love you because I give you a paycheck. This creates rebellion, pushback. That's where you have the manager that's constantly going toe to toe with everybody instead of shoulder to shoulder. But the mentor manager, number 4, that's the sweet spot. High on standards. We've got a job to do. We need to get results. We do have sales goals, and we will meet those sales goals. But I also understand that you're a person. And I understand that you have a life outside of work. I don't care if you work on Saturdays. I don't care if you work on Mondays. I don't care if you work at midnight or you work at 6 in the morning. We have standards. But I also want you to know that I care for you. I'm an advocate. I'm here to support you and to connect you to your dreams. What did this create? Respect. They weren't always liked, but they were respected because they were equal on their standards as much as they were on their ability to connect. You want to get good with millennials? Have high standards and be really good at connection.
Linda, doesn't that remind, oh, sorry, Clint.
No, you're good.
Doesn't that remind you of Mo?
Yes, very much so.
That's the first person. Yeah. And I thought you were probably thinking of her.
Yep.
You instantly remember those people, right? And they stand out as those significant leaders, those people that become legendary.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
I love what you just said, toe to toe instead of shoulder to shoulder. That's very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's what a better way to lead, right? What a better way to, I think sometimes as managers, we look at people like a fireplace. We sit in front of the fireplace and we say, give me heat, then I'll give you wood, right? Give me the results, give me the effort, put in the time, then I'll help you out. Then I'll give you the strategies. Then I'll connect. Then we'll talk about a raise. We got to flip that script. Why? Because every employee that I interviewed undercover, out of 10,000 of them, every single one of them was asking this question of their boss. Let me know when it gets to the part about me.
Mm-hmm.
Let me know in your company and your ideas and your goals and your quotas. And let me know when that gets to my life, when that matters to me. And managers hear that and they go, well, those entitled little shining stars in my life, right? Let me know when it gets to the part about me. It's not about entitlement. It's about good business. It's about bringing humanity back into the workplace.
I love this. Clint, the last guest we had on our podcast was Dan Sullivan, which I love. He's one of my favorite mentors and coaches. And he's been coaching entrepreneurs for 40 years. And I love what he's done in his organization. So my question to you is, how important do you think this is for millennials? But 2 things that stand out to me about Dan and his organization. One is he's gotten very clear that when you put people in their unique ability, mm-hmm. and pretty much they do majority of their job is their unique ability, you're going to get better results, happier people, all kinds of stuff. So that's one thing. What are your thoughts around that? Number 2, he has this really cool form that I love that's called a 4x4. Mm-hmm. I should have seen if I could find one real quick to get you the quadrants, but it's pretty much the top part's about performance. Oh, good. Pull it up. Top part is about their performance in their role. And the bottom part is how they can be a hero in their role, bottom left. And then bottom right is how you drive me crazy.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if people work for you, they don't want to do something that drives you crazy. So I have loved that form because I feel like it puts everything out on the table and it shows, I think when there's when there's ambiguity, people don't do very well when they're not clear, you know. So I would say, okay, thank you, Dana. You put it on there. That's good. So the first two quadrants are,
yeah, I just used this like 2 days ago. That's why I had it saved on my desktop still. It's so good.
Is what in your performance, what do you need to be alert, curious, responsive, and resourceful? And in your results, how can you be faster, easier, cheaper, and better? And then in the bottom left is being a hero. How do you be a hero? And then the bottom right is things that drive me crazy. So one of them that he talks about in that drives me crazy is one that drives me crazy. It's called black holes. It's like, I give you a project and I trust you that you're going to get it done. And then I don't get any feedback. So when I don't get any feedback, I automatically make up this horrible story that nothing's being done or that it's all going wrong. And if everything is going wrong, I'm the person you need to bring it back to because I am a problem solver, right? So I could help you. So what are your thoughts? Two things about millennials. How important is it, do you think, to millennials in particular to be able to do something that is just their unique ability and not a million things? And then what are your thoughts about that kind of form?
Yeah, I think there's always the guides. There's kind of the tools, the forms, the assessments, the things that we can use to help us in our leadership. I think those are great tools. I think those can be very helpful. I'm a big proponent of throwing the personality assessments out the window. I have seen this in a lot of, not that that's a personality assessment. I was a pilot for a long time. Every pilot knows that every aircraft flies differently. It all has a manual. It comes with a manual that you know, here's the guide. This is when you should take off. This is when you should rotate. This is when you should. This is when the aircraft's going to stall. But that never replaces getting in and actually flying the plane. Mm-hmm. Every person is going to be unique, and I think when we try to, again, put people in a box or we try to categorize certain things, we end up having almost a misdiagnosis that comes from that. We had a company that every employee that was onboarded, they went through the color code assessment. It's a personality assessment that you get a color. And the goal was to figure out how to connect better. It was a tool that they used. But in doing this process, it created massive misdiagnosis in the community. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to answer the questions as if you were a 5-year-old. I can't even remember what I ate yesterday for dinner, like, let alone what I would have chosen to do as a kid. And so they go through and they answer these questions, and then it spits out a result. Here's the guide. This is who you are. This is what you should do. And people had identity crises. It full on became almost racism in the office. People would go up to somebody and they would say, instead of, you know, where are you from? You know, what do you enjoy to do? What's your background? Where'd you grow up? They would immediately ask, what's your color? What color are you? And people would be like, I'm a yellow. And they'd be like, oh, you just want to have fun. You're the person, I don't want you on my team because you just want to kick it. Or they'd say, I'm a red. And they'd be like, you're the jerk. You're the power hungry person. Mm.
Linda, we kind of used to be like that with AVAs. What's your number? Oh, you're an 8912. Oh, I'm a 5344. Oh, you're not an 8 or a 9.
Yeah. And it's crazy. And I'm a big proponent of, again, it can be a tool. It can be a tool, but it should never replace getting in and flying the plane. It should never replace one-on-one connection, time. And that takes time. That is hard. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They're looking for the hack. They're looking for the quick guide, the tool. What's going to help me get results? What's something I can follow? Again, it can be helpful, but it will never replace individual connection. If you want to know how to really treat your people, ask them. They will tell you better than any assessment will, than any guide will. And that's kind of my point on millennials. Throw out the generational stereotypes, throw out everything that you've heard about that generation, and get in and fly the plane. Get to know that person. Advocate for that person, get to their level, get to the part about them. And in doing so, you will know what pulls on their heartstrings. You will know what will give them a sense of purpose in this job. I think that's a powerful thing.
Very good. Love it. Dana?
I have a meeting in 2 hours, so about this exact thing in person. So I'm like taking down all the notes I can. So this is great. Thank you. No, it's been really great. I just wondered, my last question was, what's your favorite story out of all the interviews that you've done? Do you have a favorite one?
Yeah, there's so many. So there's this guy, he's in the book. His name is Frank, the tire store owner. And it was one of those places where I was working undercover, and every person said, I work here because of Frank. I work here because of Frank. I'm like, why Frank? Why Frank? And the common theme was, what matters to us matters to Frank. Mm-hmm. And in Frank's office was a board. And man, I almost get emotional every time about it, because it was a powerful moment for me when I met Frank and I went into his office. And in the office was this old kind of janky cork board, but there were these pictures that were, some of them were clipped out of a magazine, some were printed, and one was a picture of a baby. The other picture was a picture of a tire store. One picture was sandy beaches of Hawaii. And I said, Frank, what is this? And he goes, that's what matters to my people.
That's good.
He conducted status interviews with every one of his team members. He understood what it meant to fly the plane. He didn't read an assessment. He wasn't going off of a personality thing. He had created true connection, and he knew what mattered to them. So for example, one of his team members, one of the tire managers, they've had infertility issues forever, and that's expensive. And he said, we're working really hard to make sure that he and Sally, they have enough money to get a baby. That's what we're working for. He said the beach, he said, Dave, he wants to go on a vacation with his family. So we're working really hard on that. And he said, Kyle wants to own his own store. So every day I'm taking time and we're mentoring Kyle on how to become a franchise owner. And he said, and I want them to know that what matters to them matters to me, and that I remember that. And then he got a little cheap little Walmart, like 5x7 frame. And on every one of their desks, their workstations out in the tire area, it just sat their dream. And it was one of those memorable moments that kept the main thing. And that we're working for something bigger than ourselves. We're not just putting tires on cars. We're helping people live a safer, more happy life. And we're working together towards something else. And everybody on that team knew that Mike and Sally were having infertility issues. Everybody knew that Dave really wanted to go to Hawaii, and they supported each other. And when one of those accomplishments was achieved, they celebrated it like it was New Year's Eve. It was one of the most beautiful things that I had seen on how a leader created true connection.
I love that. Instead of having your own dream board, you have your people's dream board. That's phenomenal.
That's
what it's about. That's your stewardship. If you are in leadership, it is not about you. Yes, you got to take care of yourself. I believe that. But again, your job, your role is to connect people to their dreams. That's what mentorship is. It's true servant leadership. It is true advocacy.
I love it. I love it. That's good. I think that's a good one to end on. I could keep going, but we don't have a book told to us in a minute. Nobody will buy it. We want everybody to buy it. So I love it. Where can people find you? Where can they follow you, and how can they get the book?
Yeah, so the book is available on Amazon for pre-order right now. You could just type in, I love it here. And thank you for those of you that support and have bought the book. It means a lot.
I just pre-ordered mine yesterday. I'm pumped. I can't wait till April 13th.
Yeah, that means so much to me. That means so much to us as authors. So thank you. And then clintpulver.com is my website. I'm on all the social media channels as well, but clintpulver.com, Amazon, grab the book. Thank you to you both. This has been an absolute honor for me. I appreciate, love the Keller Williams family. Always have, always will. And it's an honor to be on the show.
We love
you, Clint.
Yes. And we got to come talk to all of our leaders. So we'll do that too.
We will make sure that happens.
You're honored.
That everyone needs to hear. We love it.
Absolutely.
So Clint, and remember, if you have a topic or a conversation or an opportunity or challenge that you would like Dana and I to discuss on the podcast, reach out to us at info@everythinglifeandrealestate. And remember, if you haven't hit subscribe, please do. And the greatest compliment you could give Dana or myself is to pass this podcast along to someone that you think would enjoy this amazing interviews that we just had with Clint and other great people that we have on that would enrich and benefit their lives. So Dana, I will see you next week. And Clint, we're going to get your book.
Yes.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you, Clint.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.